food, dogs, and cars. That was Rich.
My name is Tracy, and I am Uncle Richard, one of Uncle Richard's nieces.
And I'm Preston, one of his nephews.
And so we're here today to share a little bit about our Uncle Rich from the perspective of his family, from his brothers and sisters, and from some of his nieces and nephews. Everyone knows that Uncle Rich, or Richard, knew not just how to enjoy life, but he knew how to enjoy it well. He knew how to treat himself, and he knew how to treat those around him. He was a jokester, he was whip smart, and he had the driest sense of humor. To his siblings, he was the cunning and streetwise, loving older brother who also happened to be a challenging and exciting and venerable opponent in golf and tennis. To my cousins, he was the cool uncle with the good food, sweet cars, cute dogs, and golf obsession. You could call Richard a foodie since day one. My grandma was an amazing and skilled cook, and we blame her for my Uncle Richard's extremely discerning palate. He appreciated the finer details of good cooking and always remembered to point out when a certain dish at the dinner table needed a little more salt, a little more spice, or a little something else. Over the years, my uncle became quite the chef and routinely whipped up the best meals for family and friends. He always put extra effort into making sure the food he cooked for us always tasted perfect. He was always proud of the meals he put on the table. I remember one Thanksgiving he hosted where he wanted to get the Thanksgiving Day turkey exactly perfect, the juiciest, best, most well-seasoned turkey. So he actually baked 2 practice turkeys in the 2 days before Thanksgiving. At the time, my parents lived a block away from my Uncle Richard's house on Jordan. So he would always have myself, my mom, my brother go over to his house. And during this period, he would say, hey, try this turkey, try this turkey. Do you think it's good? Do you think I should make this one on Thanksgiving? Suffice it to say, we were probably already sick of turkey by the time Thanksgiving arrived. But my uncle loved food so much. Whenever we dropped by, there was always something decadent and delicious to eat. His fridge was always, even to his last days, stuffed to the brim, so that whenever I opened the fridge door, all this food would come tumbling out of the fridge onto me and onto the counters. Uncle Rich loved food and wanted to share his love with food with everyone. Back in the day, when he went to Cal for college, my grandparents had actually bought him, before he left, a brand new 1969 sky blue V8 Chevy Malibu with bucket seats. My uncle didn't actually need the car while in Berkeley and had generously asked my mom, Susan, who's his younger sister, whether she wanted to borrow his car. She was going to City College back then, and of course she couldn't pass up the opportunity to borrow this sweet new ride. But there was a catch. Uncle Richard said, sure, Sue, you can borrow my car, but you'll have to just promise that every Friday you come to Berkeley and you pick me up, you pick my friends up, and you drive us back to the city. And then you have to promise also every Sunday you pick us up in San Francisco, wherever we are, and drive us back to Berkeley. Also, you have to promise to bring moms, my grandma's, food to me whenever I want when you pick me up. My mom said okay. But unbeknownst to her, he had negotiated his own personal Uber and food delivery service. Over the years, Uncle Richard would also routinely invite all his nieces and nephews over for Halloween. He never ceased to leave us in awe of his amazing haunted house decorations, always setting the gold standard for festive holidays. He always volunteered his home on Jordan for our big Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners that often went into the early hours of the next morning. It never mattered to him that 20 or 30 of his friends, his family, his nieces and nephews who were screaming at all hours of the night playing hide-and-go-seek tag at his house were there until 3, 4, 5 a.m. the next day. His house was always full of family and friends that he treated like family. His tree on Christmas was always decorated to the nines, his dining table was always full of food, and his home was always full of love. We were family, and Uncle Richard was a big part of why all our cousins, why all our aunts, and all our uncles have formed the unbreakable bond that remains today.
Thanks, Tracy.